Okay, in this tutorial we're going to do the story view. So once someone clicks on one of the headlines on a page and takes them to grabs the the story ID out of the URL bar and then populates the story page. So what we need to do is we need to take our index page and duplicate it. And then we're going to change it to story. And then I'm going to open up that page and modify the markup in PHP in there. So first thing I want to do is go into where I had on my other page. I'm going to keep my database connection. But before I do the database connection, I need to grab the URL out of the story ID out of the URL that has been passed to the story page. So I'm going to create a story ID variable. And I'm going to make it equal to the global get variable. And I'm going to grab the story ID and I'm going to go ahead and echo that story ID so we can make sure it's in the page. So let's see, let me modify some other code quickly before I take a look at that. What I want to do is get rid of this while statement. Oops, don't want to do that. I'm going to leave the row. Get rid of that bracket. Looks like my internet connection's acting crazy. So I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm actually going to get rid of all this, the curly brace, since I don't have that while anymore. And then I'm going to close the PHP. So now let's take a look at the page on the front end. And that's good. So you see that it's echoing that number 6 story ID, or 3, or 2. So then I want to come in here, and all I have to do now really is sort of echo the place that I want it. So I can kind of get into the markup itself. And I'll just create a div. I'm going to call it, it's going to make it an ID because it's going to be unique on this page. And I'm going to say story container. And remember, that's just stuff I'm making up that makes sense to what I'm doing. This is not like some practiced way of doing it. Sorry, I'm just getting my divs aligned here so I don't get confused later. So inside there, the first thing I'm going to have is an H1. So what I'll do first is I'll just sort of use dummy text to sort of, H2 to sort of style my page. So test headline. And then I'm going to have my story teaser, and I'm going to give it an H3. And I'm really just doing that markup, picking these elements based on search engine optimization. So I'm ranking things most importantly. Then I can always go in and modify the style. So you remember that the markup really shouldn't be thinking presentation. You're just thinking semantic value. So let's do teaser, and then maybe underneath there I'm going to have where the story's published. So I'm going to do, say, an H5, and I'll just have the date. Then underneath there I'm going to have a div called body text. So I'm going to create a div. I'm going to give it an ID and call it story text. So, and then this is where I would have, P element, a bunch of copy, close the P, another P element, a bunch of copy, close the P element. So save that. So let's go ahead and take a look at that looks like. And again, I'm not really worried about styling it up, but I just want to give you a sense of what the story page will look like. So now all I have to do is just go ahead and echo the values from my table that I've queried. So you can see we've done stories. I don't really need, what I need to do is modify this query. So select all from stories, and then what we're going to do is do where, again my internet connection is slowing down. So what I'm going to do, since I queried that while my internet's sort of catching up here, what I had done, you saw how I had posted the value and we can see that story ID. So what I need to do is use that story ID to query just that row from the table. And it looks like I'm going to have a problem here. Well, okay, so everything looks fine. It is just my internet. Okay, there it goes. So we're going to do select all from stories where story ID equals, and I'm going to do the variable story ID. So now that's just going to select that one row that's been passed to the page. So now I can go ahead and just type in my echo statement. So PHP echo, and we're going to echo the row variable. And inside that row, we're echoing story headline. Now I can go ahead and copy and paste this information. Change this to story teaser. Change this to story published. And I'm going to get rid of all this and echo story text. So now let's take a look at that page, refresh it. Okay, so we can start seeing that the copy, so of course I'd have to go in and start styling these elements up, but you can see now, I'm going to turn off that echo that story ID. That doesn't mean anything to the readers. So you see now, if I go back to the home page, click on Man Bites Dog, all that copy is reflected there. And one thing I want to point out when you're on that back end, so let me go ahead and edit this. You know, what you need to do is you need to put your P elements in here. So I'm going to do some more home keys and have a P element. So for each paragraph that's in your story, you need to add those P elements around the paragraphs in your back end. So again, let's take a, whoops, cancel. So let's go ahead and take a look. Story has been updated in the database. If I go back to the front end and refresh that and click on that first story. So again, I would have to now just go in and style it up to make it look like a story page. But you see, this is the same logic we already used on both our delete page and our update page on the back end. So we already learned all the technology or the functionalities from PHP that allow us to do this, and it's really just a matter of reusing those functionalities in the ways that make sense to communicate the information that you're trying to share with your viewers or readers, and then just styling it up. And that concludes this tutorial.